Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me this week, as always, it's the DM of my weekend D&D marathon. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, friends.
Tom, we had a wonderful weekend. Tom and I and many other friends hung out for like 5 days, basically, more or less, playing D&D all day for 4 straight days. It was absolutely fantastic. And man, we didn't get a lot of hobby done. I was struggling to find time to paint because there was so much D&D, but hey, such is the case.
I tried to put minis on the table and Vince just bitched.
I flipped the table, threw it over. And that's why we're late today. I was actually complaining to Mitch about that. That's I'll take the heat for today. It was not Tom's fault. Although Tom did, I would amend that to say Tom did join the hangout at like 9:29.
Hey, I was on time.
But sure, that's fine. Also joining us, it's Mitch. It's Mc1Gamer. How you doing, buddy?
Hi there. So the therapy couch is available anytime you want to complain about D&D minis, Vince.
Absolutely. It's funny because people assume often in this conversation when I talk about minis and RPGs that because I play Warhammer and love miniatures, clearly, that I must love them in D&D. But no, in fact, I hate them. But there we go. That's a topic for another show sometime.
Topic of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe
other games.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that is a good topic of the week, Tom. Minis and other games. Huh. I'm going to steal that. All right. Tom's knocking some stuff out here. Good ideas for content. Thanks, Tom. So, there's a lot of big stuff this week. We're just gonna dive straight into some GHB2 predictions because we've had 2 big spoiler articles come out since last week, and in my estimation, they more or less give the game away. We can learn so much of what's coming from these 2 articles and the few screenshots we've got. It talks about more or less everything. I'm not counting the original table of contents one we got last week.
Yep.
But let's get to some news. So we're gonna talk all about that and deep dive in the feature segment.
Well, let's start with the non-General's Handbook related. Well, I mean, there's a couple of these that are non-General's Handbook related, but let's do the rumor engine first because I know what this is.
Oh, do you? Okay, all right. I'm ready.
Oh, you did miss a piece of news on your write-up, Vince.
What's what?
You missed a piece of news. I'll get it.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. All right, so we have a big slavering jaw, okay?
Mm-hmm. So what is this? Mitch, go.
This is my son when he hasn't brushed his teeth enough.
That's a good call. Vince?
The cover of one of the 2 Nurgle books, either the Death Guard 1 for 4, like a very zoomed-in portion of either the cover of the 40K Death Guard Codex or the Nurgle Codex.
Yes, this is Nurgle art right here. This is not painting. This is not a miniature because of the stuff between the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Those lines are not brushstroke lines. Like they're drawing painting lines. So what is this the mouth of? That's
a stomach.
Question. You're right.
A stomach.
Stomach. And what stomach?
I mean, it kind of looks like the mouth across one of the putrid Blight Kings, but I can't say for sure.
No, there's a much closer, and arguably this may give the whole reveal away. I don't know if this is the cover or not. This could be internal art.
Okay.
Let's see if I can. I don't know where I just downloaded this thing, and now it's not showing up in my downloads. I was going to show an art piece. Oh well. Let me just do a.
Yeah, I will need to give up control if you're going to share something, Tom.
How about you do that? That'd be great. There we go.
I will stop sharing. You may, and I will lock on you, Tom, once we know what it is. Where you've kept us all in such suspense.
I know. You ready?
All right, it's on you. Share away.
Where'd my screen go?
Oh my God, you're so bad at the internet.
I am bad at the internet. No, I'm good at suspense.
Riveting.
Yeah, absolutely. This is okay.
It's Glotkin.
It's the tummy tums on Glotkin.
Yep.
Good call.
The tummy mouth on Glotkin.
Cool.
You can see
what's your prediction then?
You can see it in the gums. You can see it. Yeah, it's the tummy mouth of Glotkin.
So you're predicting a tome?
I am. And since Glotkin... So 2 things. One is this. One, if my less developed theory is right, this is a fantasy tome, or this is a AOS tome, because it's Glotkin, right? They don't have Glotkin in
40K. No, 40K. He's not over there.
But my more developed theory is actually, we get the invert of what we've seen with what's his face.
With Scarbrand.
Instead
of going from the Bloodthirster to the special character, they go from the special character
to
Guo.
To the Guo. And so what ends up happening is that you get a bunch of arm swaps and head swaps for the Greater Unclean Ones. And the Greater Unclean Ones, you add a sprue and take out the characters, and now you have a Guo from the Glotkin base sculpt.
I mean, it totally makes sense. It'd be easy because they'd literally only need one additional sprue in there, right?
And you pull out the characters. And
and they've already proven that they can do that with Scarbrand. So I'll tend to agree with you. I mean, I thought the same thing. It was obvious. It seemed pretty obvious to me. It was a belly mouth. Like as soon as I saw it,
the shape of the actual curvature and stuff like that. Yep.
And it had like the flesh above it, that sort of rounded bulbous flesh kind of above it that like a lot of the characters have. Because there's a couple different Nurgle models with tummy mouths. All right, I'll buy it. Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, it's one of the codices, right? I think that's fairly obvious. The question is which one. If you're right, I mean, I think we know we're getting a Nurgle tome, as we mentioned last week.
Yep.
Because they are left out of the official allegiance abilities in the GHB, and they're obviously a very popular, well-known currently played faction and huge in the story.
Yep.
That's not accidental. So, okay. We all know it's coming.
Yep. So the other piece of news this is the part that you forgot. And some people associated this knowledge with like this picture with this other image that came out this week, which was the announcement of a new Black Library novel, The Overlord.
I did forget that. Man, I'm so sorry.
Of the Iron Dragon.
Yeah, I meant to add it. I was excited about this because you've got the weird two-headed Stardrake head dragon.
Right, this is Galrock, and you can see it because of the neck. This is the Chaos Dragon.
Like it's a Chaos Dragon. I don't think it's Dragon.
It may or may not be.
The head looks very much like the Star Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, it has a redesigned head. Galrock didn't classically have those horns, nor did he have two whole heads. Galrock's head had ripped in half.
And half. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But I agree with you. As soon as I saw the webby web in between, I was like,
it's a Chaos Dragon. Yep, and this is like a Chaos Dragon Stardrake, probably. And the neck. So on one hand, the neck looks like a long Stardrake neck as well. Alternatively, the body looks less like a Stardrake body and more like a Lord of Change body.
Agreed. So it has the long arms.
So how about I blow your mind? What if they used that same kit and did a bunch of hand and swaps and head swaps and wing swaps and made a Galrock kit? Like, I know that they won't, but he's supposed to be Zinchi.
Sure. I mean, what I'll say is you could make that model pictured there pretty easy. Because the Lord of Change already has a version that has two heads, obviously. Right?
Yep. You do the dual
the Kairos.
You get the heads from the Stardrake, and you do the wings from like Dorgar or something crazy. I mean, you do some like crazy ass huge wings.
Yeah, you do the Dorgar wings, absolutely. And bing bang boom popcorn, you've got this model. The Stardrake head and the heads on the Lord of Change are a separate thing, right? And then what my point being is like, it's not like you could literally just slot a different head onto it and green stuff around and you're pretty much good to go. The head is its own piece, as opposed to like part of the neck being wrapped up in the head or something like that, Yeah.
And Relian has some good points in the comments. He just notes that this could be the new Sigmar art style. The Tzeentch Mutant for Sculpt for Zangar definitely has a head split in two, much like Galrock had his head split in two. And one thing that we could, talk about is that this could be Galrock having like possessed a Stardrake and mutated it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
And so it is Galrock. It is Galrock, but it is also a Stardrake. Like that, they could have done something like that as well.
An excellent point. Yes. I mean, I think that the sculpting of the head to look Stardrakey is intentional, right?
Certainly.
Let me just say this: if this model ever becomes available, it's on my table like the next day. Like it's pre-ordered the second I hear
Vince does a
scant rumor of it.
2-day speed paint.
I'd like to see it standing up like that, kind of, because I like to see the elevation be
Like
kind of like,
pouncing.
yeah, exactly. But I think I like to see it taller rather than kind of stooping or on all fours, because it really looks like it's almost bipedal here, as opposed to, you know, the Star Drake is much more on all fours, or on three of its four legs, excuse me, because one of them is just conveniently raised.
Yeah, I mean, sure, because all big monsters are in the Captain Morgan position now, but it's like the cheapest way to make a dynamic looking model. Yeah, I mean, look, Order's been getting all the good dragons lately. What the heck is up with that?
Yeah, we need a nerdly dragon.
Yeah, we need some more bad guy dragons. Like, dragons are supposed to be bad guys here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying, classically, they're not exactly friendly, and yet all the recent dragons have been good guys. Let's see some bad guy dragon models. Come on.
That'd be so good. Like, imagine like a chaos. Oh,
slow down there, Tom.
You do have me thinking, Tom, though, about doing this conversion, because this would be an easy conversion, and I have an extra set of Dorgar's wings sitting right in front of me on my desk. So
you'd have to get an extra lore to change. I mean, the Star Drake heads probably wouldn't be too difficult. You could probably buy them on eBay.
I have the extra dragon heads. I already have the dragon heads, and I already have the Dorgar wings.
Are you going to use just the high elf dragon heads?
Yeah, but I would just change the horns.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep, easy peasy. Done and done.
Man, that conversion is already halfway assembled in your house.
It is. It's already there. All right, what else we got?
And if you magnetize the heads, well, no, that wouldn't work. I'd say if you magnetize the heads, you can make a duel for Kairos.
You know I don't magnetize models.
I know you don't. I know you don't. It'd still be funny.
Piece. You don't magnetize art. Okay, it is what it is.
No,
I don't. You know, like I don't
no,
go.
You do magnetize art, Vince.
I gotta side with Tom on that. I'm Joe magnetizing. I'm with you, Tom.
Hey, I build a piece to be the piece it is, not 50 other things in the game. I'll use it in a
Mr. Artist.
Yeah, that's what I'm claiming. Correct. That is exactly what it is. I am saying I am an elitist. Yeah. But let me also say I love Relian's answer in the comments is the one I will truly get behind. He said magnets are for chumps, just buy more. Yes, now that is an answer I can get behind. I like where your head's at, Relian.
Yeah, and Relian did the smart move. He bought 3 because he knows the power of that battalion.
Sure. that's what it was, I'm sure.
It must be it. Okay, where are we at? Stuff for the show. Some other things that dropped this week, and I'm just briefly going to mention these new general handbook items. This is what we're doing for the main thing on death, hordes, a number of articles. We'll be talking through those today. Confirmation on the Facebook page of what I had suspected last week, and we had talked about, which was that there's going to be separate PDFs for the so the Compendium Scrolls are not in. So we talked about this last week. I talked about how. I suspect the Compendium Scrolls are not going to be in the main book, but instead going to get released as PDFs. And
I still don't believe that you said would be released as separate PDFs. I do not remember such a comment. I need somebody to provide me a timestamp of this, but okay, go ahead.
No, I said this is the best of quote unquote all possible work. Like, this is what they will likely do because it's a smart decision, because what it allows them to do is to push the onus of exclusion off onto the event scene so that GW doesn't have to own it. Sure. And luckily, soon after my bitching started, Alex piped in on my Twitter feed and said that Adepticon will be, if they are publishing points for it, Adepticon will be allowing those if they're updating points at future Adepticons. And he did the little minion mic drop.
That's it, Alex.
That's
the way for everybody else.
Too. Adepticon is committed to the Compendium Scrolls. If the points are updated, they're committed to them.
Way to go, Alex.
Yeah.
Can somebody also provide me with a timestamp where last week Tom said that this move would mean that 90% of all TOs would turn against these scrolls and disallow them? Because I'd really like to have that on tap too.
Yeah. And by that, TOs is all TOs, including all the British tournaments.
No,
which I can
understand.
assure
That's
you,
cool.
a majority of them will outlaw. Given
I'm sure the British people will do
people.
whatever the UK does, but that's fine. That's not us. I ain't playing in any UK tournaments in 2017, as far as I know.
I made a broad sweeping global statement, and I hold by that statement. Now the US may just continue to be rebels. You know, that's a thing. Okay. News on actual Necromunda next month. Thoughts?
Yeah. I'm pretty excited because they gave an answer in White Dwarf.
Yep.
That was talking specifically about Shadow War, which everybody had kind of said was basic. I mean, it was basically like, sort of a Necromunda light. And somebody was asking about it and said basically, hey, I really like Shadow War. What's up with actual Necromunda? Blah, 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 blah. And the White Dwarf, whatever, Gromberdo responded and said that we love really Necromunda too. Apparently the lead editor is one of the people who had worked on original Necromunda and has said, check back next month. We may have something really big for you in regards to Necromunda. So
nice.
But are we tinfoil hatting this?
Sure, man, hit me.
We're
always tinfoil hatting.
Can we just have Mordheim?
Yes, I'm all for you on Mordheim, but Necromunda, I'm still gonna chant. I'm gonna cheer to and scream to the skies that if that one happens. But I kind of feel I don't think we're gonna get something new Necromunda. I think we might get an overlay, an enhancement of rules, something like what you guys were doing.
Interesting.
I can't see them releasing a completely new game when there's a game that's very similar to that already out there, and it does
like an expansion.
Right? If they can make an expansion that goes a little deeper on something they already have on the shelves, then I think that's a business model. I think that I can see GW doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what we're saying here is let me make sure I understand you, because I think you might have some gas in the engine here, Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch and I might agree on something, and I think he might be right for the first time in
timestamp that
recorded history. No, I just messed with you, Mitch. You're saying
I really want to timestamp this, by the way.
Sure. Well, you're saying take something like what Warhammer Skirmish was, that kind of a rules overlay, right? And apply it for 40K. Yeah.
No,
and that is effectively Necromunda.
No, I think he's saying it of Shadow War. Take Shadow War systems, and you add a small a small rule set that expands
a softcover rule book expansion, which if that model worked, they could do to Skirmish,
and maybe with new factions
to make it as a Mordheim expansion somewhere down the road if the model proves.
Yep. I'm on the page now. I gotcha. Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with that.
That'll actually sell more books. You could do in there. You could have faction specific stuff. So if they wanted to do something classic, to have like Sisters of Battle, or they wanted to have like a Skaven faction or something like that. Like I'm thinking Mordheim now, obviously, because I know those. Then they could do that historically within that text itself.
Sure.
Point those things out appropriately and end up selling 2 books, one a Skirmish book and one a Mordheim book.
Paul also pointed out in the comments that it could be just as easily be a video game announcement or something like that.
Yeah,
which is true. Also if it's not something like what you're describing, Mitch, because I agree with you on a whole standalone game. If it's not something like you're describing, like a rules overlay, then it's a video game.
I can see that too. I mean, I can see it on Steam. Yep. It's fairly successful. The Mordheim one that they put out. So absolutely, that's a pretty good pull there.
Yep.
No, that's a good call. And I think that's our news for the week, right?
I mean, more or less. Obviously, it's still slow, right? Because as it stands right now, we're still in the midst of the 40K blitz.
40K campaign.
Well, here's one more thing I want to talk about in regards to 40K.
Okay.
And that is AOS informative. Next week we're getting, like this weekend, going up on pre-order and hence releasing next week, are 2 codices in 1 week, namely the Chaos Space Marines and the Grey Knights. Okay.
Yep.
The point of that being, when we had originally thought about the number of open weeks for AOS releases, knowing that there would be 10 codices, we had assumed that 10 codices takes 10 weeks sort of out of the schedule, as it were, for a major release. But if they're willing to double up, then then that changes the math a lot, right? Because I can't see them ever doing more than 2, but they could do a couple other pairs like that, and suddenly we have very different release potentials, right? All throughout the rest of the year. It wouldn't take more than like 1 or 2 other doubles to suddenly very much change the math of the available weekends.
So our last release was a KO release, right?
I mean, yes. Effectively, you're saying like full, like real release, right?
So here's
like
my call. Can I be ambitious?
Sure, man, do it.
I think by October we'll have 3 new book releases.
Really? And what are they?
I don't know.
Well, one is Nurgle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's this. So I mean, I do know, but I don't. Like, one would be Shadow Elves, because like that seems like what we're spinning up for. One would be Nurgle, and one is a partial repack. I don't know. Like, so I'm thinking something like what they did with Orcs, Savage Orcs, or with Beastclaw, where we'll have a mostly repacked new codex.
Yeah, I mean, the question is,
and I think we'll get bombarded like between now and maybe the mid-October. I don't want to say the end of September, so maybe mid-October. I think we'll have 3 releases.
The goal would be to have it out by November at the earliest, like the first-ish week of November, because that's sort of your Christmas buying season period when you have to have everything released by. But you know, I think when you look at the stuff,
it gives them on the other side of that, by the way, another 40K release going into the Christmas.
Sure.
Yeah.
And all of those seem like your possibilities. Some Nurgle, Death, something Elfy, right? It's like those are all the items that we could easily slot in here.
Yeah, so, I mean, I could see a number of different ways they could reskin that repack. Like Death Rattle would be real low-hanging fruit for them, with Shadespire releasing. Because you got to remember, Shadespire's dropping this fall.
See, that's what I was thinking. Why I said Death.
Yeah,
sure. It would coincide with Shadespire.
Yeah. Well, we already know that the rules that come, like the Shadespire models they're releasing, will have AOS rules. So there is a Death release, like by de facto.
Yes, but we don't have a Death Rattle Allegiance set in the new GHB, which would suggest that we probably have that Death Rattle Allegiance book coming.
Right, and that would it'd be the perfect time to release Shadespire, you release the Death Rattle book, you've put out a bunch of new sexy Death models. I mean, come on.
Can I throw a wrench into this? Like not a wrench, but rather a can I pile a little bit more tin on for the tinfoil hatting?
Sure.
That it's going to be Shadespire related, the Death Rattle armies. Okay. So not just that they're like Death Rattle and there's some overlapping, you can use them. But the lore of the book itself will be Shadespire related, and that it may or may not have echoes of TK in it.
Yeah, I don't know about that element, but I do think you're right. Like, I would say I agree with your first premise. I'm not sure on your second.
Yeah, and that's fine. And that's fine.
Yeah. Because they've clearly shown a want to seat these kinds of smaller things into particular elements of the narrative.
I think it'll be related,
strongly tied to.
Like, I think it will be related to the Empire Shadespire and what happened there. And if you read through, like a lot of the lore and stuff like that, like did you guys catch the echoes? Or I guess we'll do that in the death article, the TK Undead.
Yes, we'll talk about it. Yeah, and as was pointed out, they also talked a lot about, stuff like the Daughters of Cain. They mentioned it in one of the articles, yet it doesn't have, an allegiance in the book, which also tells you that.
Who is that? Oh, Daughters of Cain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which tells you that they could be another one those would be an excellent one on the radar for a repack. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're
a
mostly
repack in a book, and you don't even probably need a new box for them. You might
You probably don't. Maybe. Sure. I'm not going to fight it. I'd love it, but I'm just saying, like, you could give them mostly the Savage Orc treatment and call it a day. Right. And
I could see a character kit and one more box. You do a character kit, one more box, and a book. And then maybe a getting started box like we talked about. I don't know.
There's definitely a getting started box in there at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. All right. Cool. Good stuff. So, for me, that was a big moment, seeing those 2 codices in one week, because it suddenly was like renewed hope. Yep. Right? That like, maybe we won't get locked out the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's turn to some pick of the week, because we're going to deep dive into that GHB2 stuff. We're going to get there. Don't worry. And I'm ready to disagree with Mitch on everything. I've prepared myself mentally. Mitch, what's your
TV or a good YouTube?
There you go. Sure. This is whatever. Well, I watch YouTube on my TV. It's close enough. All right. So let's start with some pick of the week, though. So, Mitch, what would you like to share with everybody? Blog.
I'm gonna ask you to trust me here because I might go off the rails a little bit.
I'm ready.
Can I get control of the?
Oh boy.
Oh
boy.
Here we go.
Dangerous. Yes, you can. Sure.
All right.
All right, you're locked on. Go ahead and share.
All right. So I'm sharing. Let's see if I can do this better than. How's that? All right. Now I want you to go along this journey with me here. Do you remember that interview with Cavill and with Affleck when they kind of tuned out the conversation and you saw the sad Affleck and they kind of zoomed in
darkness.
on sad Affleck and you had the yes. This is the sad Affleck version of Vince Ventrella D&D. So I have some questions about this too, and I'm sorry if I'm derailing you, but this is just too juicy to just leave to the Twitter sphere. My pick of the week is how awesome this picture is on so many levels. I love the Diet Dr. Pepper extra large. I love the scene in general because I'm a fan of Dwarven Forge, although I know, Vince, how much you hate it. You were railing about it pre-show and at the very beginning of the show, which was so perfect, and I was biting my tongue about bringing this in. But I got to tell you how much I love also the smoke that is showing here.
Absolutely.
Your look is absolutely priceless. So this, my friends, is the pick of the week. I would just like to know what this setting is. And then, of course, please accentuate how many times we've seen this exact same cavern.
So I'll give the story quickly. This is so Tom, as I mentioned, ran a marathon game for us this last weekend of D&D. Tom did a fun thing in the middle of the marathon and allowed myself and two of the other players to run an individual scene within his marathon. He gave us a little setup and we switched DM's chairs. And so this is a different one of our friends running a interesting little underground fight we had with a bunch of aberrations and stuff like that. It's an Eberron game, and I am the little golden knight guy in the back. So we're coming in that lower left corner.
Lower left?
The lower left corner.
Oh, that's you right there?
That's me. Yeah, that's
of course, character. It's on a square base.
It is indeed, true. Yes. It is on a square base.
There's lots of funny stuff going on here. Look at these guys off to the side here.
Coming in from the mist. Here. Yes, it's nice.
Dude's here, and there's this guy in the middle here. This is awesome. Tom, I'd like
the elephant floating back on the cube.
Guys, I'm actually yeah, that's right. Right here, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's
so. This was a fun little underground scrum we got in.
Great. If you want to disconnect me, feel free. But I gotta tell you, I'm going to do some episodes. I'm going to actually put up some more D&D content coming up, and I'm going to unshare there. How'd that work? How's that for
Vince? To answer Chris's question or comment, Vince has like 10 copies of that shirt in his closet.
Well, I just want you to know I'm going to be doing some D&D content on my channel, and I'd love to have you guys on for some non-AOS stuff because I'm sure there's plenty for us to talk about. But that doesn't mean I'm doing any less AOS. But that's my pick of the week.
Tell me I'm
wrong. Thank you for indulging me. Sorry to derail your show, but it was just a moment I just thought was just too funny to pass up.
I love it. No, that's perfectly fine, and I do like that I look so sad in that picture. I was not sad all weekend. It was
just the miniatures. He's not a fan of miniatures in RPGs.
No, it was handled as well as could be. It was fine. There we go. Okay.
It was a set piece encounter. I had boxes of this stuff from the Kickstarter I backed, and my one friend John, who was running the game for us during that segment, really wanted to use it. So I said, let's do this. And so we, much to Vince's chagrin, over dinner, set up the scene. It's a big three-way scrum. It was fun.
I think I have to do a video of that zoom in with the music overlay. That's got
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yes. Yes, that would be delightful. If any of our viewers want to do that, you are welcome to.
I need a
All right,
copy.
Tom, what's your pick of the week, buddy?
Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. No,
It's a good pick, I suppose.
it is a good pick. Ale aged in bourbon barrels. Anyways, Tyler, friend of the channel, Scrubbing Wells, he has been pounding out some content these last couple weeks in podcasts. He came back with a fervor, and I would just encourage you to check out his channel. He's put out like a number of shows in a very tight time frame. So he is making up for lost time. And so there's hours of content on his podcast.
Yeah, just put out one today.
Yeah. Yep. Just today. Many podcasts.
All right, nice. My pick of the week will actually be to a painting channel I quite like, which is Pirate Monkey Painting. It's Anthony Rodriguez, who's a good painter, and he did a nice little quick 12-minute video on doing non-metallic gold in a very quick and simple fashion, more for tabletop miniatures, not for like display painting or anything, but the idea of he's doing it on like a Space Marine and showing you how you can sort of quickly achieve the effect if you don't want to use traditional metals. I mean, he does it live, and he's doing the shoulder pad, and it takes him 12 minutes. So like there's no cuts or anything. So I think that it's a really great explanation of how you can achieve the look quickly at a nice standard. And, you know, if that's the thing you've been wanting to try, if you've ever wanted to push yourself or try something for an army, it could be a way to do it.
You going to put that link?
Yes, I will link the video down.
Yeah, I will definitely check that out.
The dude's a great painter. I followed him for a while. He's done a lot of pieces I really love. He's a very, very imaginative painter. And this is a great share from him. So I really liked it. So he's showing you on a Space Marine, but the technique he's showing you would work on anything. So there you go. Yeah.
I think as a topic of the week, sometime you need to do what's in your case, and do a walkthrough of the case behind you, your display case.
Oh, I don't know if that's a topic. It's probably like that feels like what would people respond to? Cool story,
no,
bro.
Like what's in their cases. Like what minis do they hold? What minis have they invested time and hours into? Or because like you have pieces in your case that aren't yours.
I do, yeah. I have one in there, yes.
Yeah, but some people also, you know, so sure. Like there are stories there, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
It was just something looking at your case and thinking about this weekend in our conversation.
No, it's a good call. It's a good call.
Spitting gold. Write it down.
Just really winning today, Tom. That's all you're doing. You're just Charlie Sheen today with all the winning. All right. So that's my pick of the week. Let's talk about some hobby time. So, Mitch, it's been on your table, buddy. Your son's away at camp. Are you getting some models actually painted?
I am. I can't show them yet because they're not done. But so I last time I spoke to you, I was putting together my nearly 100 converted Bretonnian themed skeletons for my death rattle.
Yes.
And I'm still working on those, but in a future episode, I'll show them. But what I'm showing today is, hey, look, Aurelian, you want to call me a chump? Do it to my face, because I guess I'm very chumpish. But I am converting several of my Thunder Tusks magnetized so they can fit very effectively.
Yeah, you are.
And I've got a couple of them. So that's number one.
Yep.
And here's number two.
That's the right answer.
You know, and I've got 4 of these. Yep. So yeah, I buy more. I got 4 of them. Okay, and they're all converted, so all 4 of them could be whatever the hell I want them to be. So I went back to a little converting. I also decided I'm going to go finish some other jobs so I can get them on the painting table. And I talked to you guys before that I was converting up my own sepulchral stalkers. But I can't do anything that's straight out of the box. I have to convert it and do it something different because I have to go do things the hard way. But it usually pays off in the end. So I just wanted to show a preview of my sepulchral stalker, my own version. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit there. Nice. Using the Morghast kit, kind of coming up out of the ground, half of it. They're going to be ethereal. You know, there's tails in the back, and they're coming up out of a rock face. So I got 3 of these. And I'm going to go just make them ethereal sepulchral stalkers so they kind of fit my army and the look. So that's what I've been working on this week with all the time that I have. And I just needed a break from, 85 and 85 skeletons is going to become more because of the new Horde rules, of course. But I just needed to kind of put them down because I'm doing them in huge batches because I'm nuts, I'm insane, but I don't want to get I just don't want to get put away because after a while you got to kind of step away from the batch painting. So
nice.
yeah, that's what.
All right, I dig it. I like those conversions a lot. Being that it's a naturally entombed model where it can come up out of the ground, I think that's sexy. I dig it. I enjoy that. All right, Tommy, what about you, man? You've been back at your house now for like a day. I assume you just got back and like me started painting.
No, I mean, like, nope. I haven't even put stuff away from their trip.
When I got home, when you left, and when everybody was gone, I came home. I spent an hour cleaning the house and answering a few quick emails, and then sat down, turned everything off, and painted for like 4 or 5 hours straight. It was great. That's how it was exactly what I needed after all you annoying people were in my house forever. So it was good.
Yep.
We got to get you back on the stick, Tom. We got to get back on the stick.
And as I said, like I've really lost my impetus to paint. Like
you're waiting for GHB 2017 has got you in a holding pattern. That's what it is.
It does. Like because I don't want to paint bad things. Like I have limited time, and so if I'm going to invest time and direction, I don't want to paint things that I'm not going to play. Like it's just like I just have so much to paint, and so
you should be knocking out that terrain project that you were working on.
I know. But
there's no excuse for that.
What's the terrain project
right away? Like my 4x4 Nurgle table.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, and like I agree, but at the same time, like I don't know.
Do a video series on it.
You should just pick
that all takes more time
out of that table and start working it. Just get it done. It's a good way to get it back in. The 2x2 could be a display board for you easily.
Well, I already have a display board.
If you needed another one, and you could go from there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Get her done.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like I will say this is that like my bark, like of my 3 other quadrants, my bark are done on 2 of the 3. So I only have to do the bark on the 1, mud it, and then it's ready for paint. So
there you go. That's an easy peasy way to get back into it. That's all I'm saying. You got to pick the right thing.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. For myself, I think still working on the same thing I was working on last week because again, I did not get to hobby this week at all, but it's almost done now. And that is my my exorcist for my Sisters of Battle, my exorcist tank. And so it is, like all the freehand is done and stuff like that. And I've got the weather on there. So now
on the, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Nice. Very sweet.
So, and then we got the little birdies on top and stuff like that. So all I need to do now is I have to wait for the oil to dry tonight. And because all the weathering and stuff was done with oil paints, it'll be dry here by probably after the show tonight. And then I need to revarnish over it. And then I'll just pick out all the metals, weather them. Then we have to apply the pigments and we're done. So there you go. Home stretch though, home stretch. And my exorcist will be ready. Yeah, I'm excited about that. There's a couple other upcoming projects I'm trying to decide what to work on next. I've got some fun things in the hopper, but
Vince's Sisters of Battle project is the bulk of it is waiting GW.
That's right.
He needs to know.
Inquiring
he needs to know if Plastic Sisters are coming. He's going to get rid of all of that third-party junk if Plastic Sisters are coming.
Throw him a bone. Throw him a bone, GW.
Just send an anonymous email. Make like a anon at gmail.com. anon GW at gmail.com and email Vince. Just let him know.
Exactly. Just start up a Gmail account solely to give me that answer so I can know that I don't have to waste hundreds of hours. No, that being said, Tom, aside from that and the whole like not wanting to paint up the third party things, there is an item in here that's going to get painted regardless, and that is her, the avatar of Shaw, or alternate, or as she's really known, the Keeper of Secrets, right?
I have one of those in my box.
Yep. So I was going to jump on, probably get that done at some point here, because there is, that is what it is.
Paul, he's well on his way to 100 Celestines. Let me just say that.
Oh yeah, sure. I right now I have I've got 4 Saint Celestines and 8 or 10 Germania Superior. I'm trying. I'm really trying to get all of them. I will build my entire Sisters of Battle army 1 Celestine and 2 Germania at a time if I have to. So there you go. I mean, you know, if that's what it takes, that's fine. So be it. I was already converting some and putting them together. So there we go. I think I'll do an entire jump pack squad of just Celestine. Just different. I'll just convert her over. And there you go. Okay. So let's talk about some General's Handbook 2017. Are we ready, gentlemen? Are you prepared?
They're coming out with a new General's Handbook?
I've heard. The rumor's been going around. So let's talk about the spoilers that we've got and how I submit to you that they give the game away. Okay. So we're gonna share here so we can move through some items. We've seen 2 different articles so far. Obviously, we know we've got more. Wrong one. There we go. Death. All right. So we start out with the death article. Okay. And blah 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 death. Okay, great.
Great necromancer, shambling hordes. Yep.
Yeah. Yada yada yada.
Hold on. Classic hordes of shambling minions to an elite core of ancient necromantic constructs. Go on.
Yes, right here. Which are, by the way, the Mortarks or the Morghasts. Sorry, the Morghasts.
Shut up. No, those are
Yes.
angelic beings. Morghasts are angelic beings. Like, that was the lore.
Not if they're done right.
Constructed out of necromantically anciently. Anyways, all right.
No. War Sphinx, go. Sorry, continue.
All right, here we go. So let's look at this because this tells us a lot right out of the gate. But I'm not gonna say my thoughts. Mitch, what are your first thoughts when you look at this spoiler thing here?
Points drop for the Mortarks first off, and they're all under 400, including Neferata, which means that they can be taken potentially as allies. I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but allies. That's the first thing. The next thing is 800 points of Nagash. I am so excited for this. I can't begin to tell you.
He just got cheaper.
Yeah, so it's 100 friggin' points. Okay, it's not. I want to see if there's any other changes. Certainly, maybe there's something else that might make his spells more usable, or the fact that there's more allegiance abilities that give him more spell options, so it allows him to use what he's powerful at with the rules of 1 as they existed previously, making him more viable to be put on the table for that 800 points. I'm just excited. Look, not just for death. I just want to say I'm excited for the General's Handbook, absolutely across the board. I cannot wait.
Yeah, so
you notice that Manfred is 420.
I did.
Oh, wait, he is
420.
Oh, he's 420. Yeah. No, well,
you know what that means.
Is that he can't be taken as an ally.
He's
damn you, Manfred.
Exactly. What it means is suck it, Manfred. Exactly.
All right.
He'll be the only one that's never get taken in allies, and I love it. So let's talk about this. 1, we know this is the entire Deathlord section. Okay. Yep. No, there's no new Deathlords, which I didn't think we thought there would be, but there you go. 2, every one of these is cheaper. Not just some of them. The entire Deathlord section.
All of them.
Not the Morghasts.
Yes, the Morghasts.
What? They're 220.
They were 2 for 240. Yep.
Oh God. Okay. All right.
Every single one of these got
my Death Faction cred just went down.
There you go. Ruined it all. And some of these by a fairly significant amount, I would point out, right? Like obviously, yes, you mentioned Nagash going down by 100 points. Okay, for my money, that's not cheap enough.
I agree.
I would have liked to see him at 700, maybe 720, but well, such is life. But you know, Neferata dropping 40 points, that's nice, that's significant. Manfred dropped 40 and Archon went down 20, which I'm surprised Archon went down. I always thought he was the actual good deal out of the bunch. But I'm happy
it's a better deal now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can fit him and no, necromancers aren't 100, aren't they? So you can fit him in a necromancer, but that doesn't mean anything. And necromancers made it went down to 80.
Yes, they were just hyping necromancers today too on being allies for your army. So I'm hopeful that necromancers could get, you know, cheaper or whatever. Yes, so all of them are cheaper. All of them are like the same numbers and limitations, still 2 and 6 and stuff like that. And still battle line if they're Death Lord's Allegiance, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, great. To me, obviously, the next thing we need to touch on is we see how allies work now.
Yep. It's keyword based, and it's listed in the bottom of each allegiance.
Yep. And it's not, in this case, by happenstance. It's all of the other sub-factions in the current...
That we know about.
Alliance. Yes, I understand. That's why I said in the current.
Yep.
But it's not obviously anything compendium, right?
Yep.
And it's not
that's not necessarily true. Stop. That's not necessarily true because we have Death Rattle, and a lot of the Tomb King stuff is Death Rattle. So you could slide Tomb King stuff in under the Death Rattle allies. Yeah,
and there's some named characters that are Soul Blight that are compendium.
I will accept. Your point is well taken. I meant more of they're not calling out any of the stuff that happens to be living in the compendium as its compendium thing. But yes, where there happens to be keyword overlap, it's a fair point. In this case, it happens to be all of the Death Alliance, but they're actually going sub-faction specific. I thought that was interesting. What did you think about that?
Well,
Tom,
I would say keyword. I would say keyword specific, not even sub-faction.
Sure.
Because I think that's significant. What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I'm glad. Like, I'm glad that this is a thing. I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that Death Lords can seem to dip into everything except for Flesh Eater Courts. I have a problem with that. Lore-wise, I don't think it fits. But that's just me. Because like Death Eater Courts or Flesh Eater Courts were the ones that rebelled against them.
They rebelled against them. Yes, the fluff.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I think that they dropped the ball there, fluff-wise. But you know, whatever. He is the Lord of Undead. He could take control of everything. So
maybe that's the way it works. These are captured. These are either maybe reintegrated units or taken over over the course of battle. He is the Lord of Death.
He is the Lord of Death. But, to me, this was a big deal because I think one of your fears, Tom, was that a lot of things that we would see more points up than points down. Or maybe even if you didn't express that fear. I have certainly seen it from
It depends on the units, I think.
That's fair.
I play a lot of units that I think are going to go points up.
I'm sure that's correct.
Let's be honest.
Sure. No, that's fair. But I was happy to see these adjustments. To me, all of these were quite appropriate. I felt like a lot of these models were overcosted in their current incarnation. And so some slight movements down I felt was very well done. The thing I welcome the most is the Morghasts. I know that 240 to 220 isn't the biggest deal in the world, but I think it was absolutely the right move to make. For how much you get out of them at their cost. So this gives me hope for some other models like that to maybe move down a little. Varangard. All right. So anyway,
my guess is 300, Vince. I mean 300.
That'd be a big old move. I would love it if I did, but
wouldn't it?
It would. It'd be sexy, but I've had all my Varangard for a while, and it's hard to put them on the table, especially since I play smaller armies usually.
Now, ready for me to blow your mind?
I'm ready, man.
You could do that, and then because of the allies, you could pull in some other chaos to fill one of the battle line slots, and so you're not just 3 units in Archeon.
Right. Sure, absolutely.
Have we confirmed that though? That allies can with generic battle line will still apply?
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, I don't know either. It seems to make sense, but we haven't confirmed that, though, have we?
Yeah. No. That was Veal had an excellent observation that Verminous can now be played in an Archeon-led Tzeentch army.
Oh,
which is a much more important observation.
That is pretty solid.
You can slip 3 of them into an all Tzeentch army now.
Apparently, Paul says characters can unlock battle line if units is battle line. I don't know. So there you go. I mean, we'll have to see more. Okay. let's move through some new command stuff here, because obviously this is some interesting stuff. And I take a particular issue with something that came up in your video, Mitch, that you did when you were talking about some of this. Okay.
Shocking.
All right, so let's talk about the Flesh Eater Courts one quickly. I don't think this one's too crazy, but here we go. So, basically, as we all know, the Flesh Eater Courts see themselves as, noble soldiers serving a glorious king. They're all delusional. So you pick your particular delusion. I thought this was very fun. And, so none of these
Why are people not painting up these guys more as Bretonnians? I just don't.
I am.
You are,
I haven't
yes.
nailed them all yet.
Right. It would be fun to see more ghoulie-based Bretonnians, but yes, I agree. Because it certainly reads like it with these guys: the Crusading Army, the Royal Hunt, the Feast Day, and obviously we have this new thing called Feeding Frenzy, which we don't know what it is yet, but there you go.
We're missing the 4 through 6 though.
Sure. I mean, so this is before you select your general's command trait. You pick one of these things for the army to have. So clearly the army is going to have Feeding Frenzy and this, right? Because that's how I read this. It will be their allegiance.
Where are you seeing Feeding Frenzy?
Right here. If you look at the Feast Day, you can reroll dice rolls of 1 when rolling to see if a friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit becomes subject to a Feeding Frenzy. Well, for this to be of any value, right?
Yes. C left, yes.
Yeah, C left. That has to be another new rule that the whole army has, because it says these apply to everything and blah, blah, blah. Right? So, there you go. To me, that's cool. I think that sounds...
it's probably like fun. You roll a 6, get an additional attack.
Right, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, get an additional attack, and if you can reroll 1s to check that or something, I don't know.
Right.
I like that these could stay present even if the general dies.
Yeah, exactly. Even if the general is slain, this is still the delusion they're operating under. Absolutely.
Yep. It'll prevent it'll de-incentivize like hero sniping.
Sure. Well, and even if they do snipe your heroes, who cares? You still get the bonus, right? So yes.
Yep.
I agree. Okay. So let's talk about some Night Haunts, because we basically got their whole thing, right?
Sure.
So. Oh, that came out really big. Okay, so whatever. This is how apparently this is how this is. I don't know why the picture's so big, but this is how big it is.
It's a thing. Sure.
All right, so blah 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 Night Haunts. And then instead of setting up a Night Haunt unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it's in the underworld. If you do so, you can roll
just get deep strike. You can stop. They get deep strike.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it's deep strike. It's a current Stormcast deep strike.
Yes. And so
let me say this though, it is different. It is different than the current Stormcast Deep Strike.
Because you have to have a Karn Wraith or a Tomb Banshee somewhere on the battlefield.
No, but even more importantly than that, it's optional. With Stormcast, when you roll that 3 up, you have to deploy them. Here,
really? That's right.
3 up, you can set it up. So you're not forced to ever deploy anything here.
Interesting.
And this is per unit. It's each individual roll, right?
Each individual roll of stuff that you've set up off to the side.
Right.
Yep.
And obviously they can pop up anywhere more than 9 inches away from enemy units. Blah, blah, blah. Yep. And what I would say about this is, one of your sort of concerns or pushbacks on your video, Mitch, was that Karn Wraiths or Tomb Banshees are easy to kill. Well, first of all,
you need one.
I'm not entirely sure about that, being that they're ethereal and don't really have modifiable saves. Although I suppose if you put enough mortal wounds at the top of one into them, sure. But that being said, these are cheap heroes, and if you're in like a 2,000 point game where you've got a big hero number, you can have like 3 or 4 of these guys and still have room for your other heroes you need in a Night Haunt list.
But they're fewer wounds as a result of their defenses. So where a hero traditionally has 5 wounds, I think the Tomb Banshee has 4. And their save is not incredible. It's good, but it's not like a 3 up or a 2 up. It's not modifiable, but so what? You get enough shots on these guys, even with non-mortal wounding, you're going to take it out. And yes, you could have 3 or 4 of them, but with alpha strikes and character sniping and long range shooting and heavily, the spell armies like Tzeentch, I really think that they're a lot crunchier than you're giving them credit. However, you do bring up a good point, and that's where you can have a lot of redundancy. And all you need to do, and I did mention in my video, all you really need to do is hide one inside a building, behind a tree, really put it out of line of sight enough so that it survives, and you'll still get your guys back. I just don't like the mechanic that it's tied specific, because you've spent the points. I would have preferred that you could have something similar to what the Flesh Eater Courts has, where you have the ability to kind of bring these guys up on table edges, where if you didn't have the full mobility of anywhere on the board but not 9 inches away, but if the character dies, if all the characters are dead, which it's a big Achilles heel, you're not suddenly losing potentially on turn 1 or even 2 all of those models that you still have left. That's just points that are just wasted. I just think that's a huge downside as a risk for the really cruel benefit. Now, overall, I'm thrilled about it because I'm certainly going to test this out, play it, and to the best of my ability, see if I can, make them survivable, these characters. But it's just a really easy way, I think, that you could basically lose the game in turn 1 if they manage to snipe off enough of the not even all of your characters, of these characters. And now I know one thing you've said a lot is, well, if they're not going after your Mortarch or Nagash or whatever, or your Necromancer, they're going after these guys. That's a pretty good lure to try and go avoid other more valuable things that are on the table too. So there is a trade-off. I agree.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, sniping a tiny human-sized character with an invulnerable save in one, when you
let
have
alone like
less,
3 of them,
right? When you have total control over your placement of these things, which theoretically you do in most circumstances, I would be shocked. You would have to be a
very bad general.
Yeah.
Okay, granted, it's a gripe, but not a major gripe. I am very excited for this mechanic.
Yeah, I think
I'm excited for deep striking Morgul's.
Oh, not just the Morgul's, but the Hex Wraiths.
You know what else I'm excited for?
What?
Deep striking black coaches.
Well, sure.
Yeah, but
Boom!
Black coaches, man. it needs an update, man. It needs an update.
I'm sure it will still be garbage. So the look, I think you're all thinking about it differently than I am. I look at it and I think, excellent, deep striking spirit hosts.
Yes.
Because they're cheap.
Yeah.
If this nightmare scenario you're painting comes to pass, who cares if I have 2 or 3 spirit hosts stuck in whereversville, right? But like the ability to pop them way near something
when they need
intercepting, exactly, they can just float in.
And they're a fantastic path. They're a fantastic nuisance unit. Even just a minimum size 1 unit on a table quarter can really change up a lot of.
Tactics. Spirit hosts and Hex Wraiths are the type of units that people would often put in their summoning pool to summon chaff. And what this does is it basically solves, in some sense, the summoning issue of like the cost of summoning. Like if you already know you're summoning spirit wraiths, or spirit hosts, now that summoning is free.
Right.
Yes. It gives you the mechanic not to have to summon them. Yeah.
Well, I agree. You put them in here, and then you just auto deploy them at some point during the game. Yep. Like you don't auto, but like what you do is you bank like two units of them, so you're getting 2 dice rolls at this. One of them's going to roll 3+ every turn.
Sure. This was of all the things they've spoiled as far as this goes, this is the most fluffy and yet awesome for me. I saw that and I was like, oh wow, Nighthaunts have, because as we've pointed out many times, movement shenanigans are one of the great tools of the game, and that is super
one of the things that you have to play. It's a tool that has to be in your toolbox in order to have a top tier army. Yeah,
and then finally we saw the Soul Blight artifacts, which I'm not even going to waste time on because they're boring. And I looked at these 2 they shared, and I was like,
nope.
Okay.
Well, we haven't seen 3 and 6 yet, so
it doesn't matter.
It's fine. Like whatever. I looked at these 2 and I was like, all right, yep, those are artifacts.
And we know a bloodline is coming. Like there's like a dragon bloodline, like a dragon knight bloodline, and the other bloodline. So like that Soul Blighter being broken down by bloodlines, which is really neat.
Sure. So all in all, I saw this one and I was like, yep, neat, moving on. All right. So, like we said, I think they gave away a lot of how what we're gonna see here. This one especially. Now let's get to the one that really blew it all wide open.
Yep, they gave the game away.
All right, so the second update. So let's talk about the new rules of one, shall we? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me open with this before you start.
Go ahead. Take it away, Tom.
Go ahead and make the timestamp.
The timestamp is 10:33 p.m. Eastern.
I was wrong. I thought that we would have a rule of one limiting stacking.
Well, I want to point out something. There could be a number 6.
No, because it says the 2 new rules of one.
Okay.
There are 2 new rules.
Okay.
Now, so I mean, I feel pretty confident saying that we're not going to get stacking issues. One of them,
why not? That seemed to be the I would have put money on that one. I don't know.
Because I think it seems like they're just going to adjust the point values of things that the way they're going to go about it, it seems, is that they're going to adjust the point values of things that have stacking problems.
We're going to go look at something here. We're going to go on a little journey. We're going on a journey together over here into Adia's blog. And we're going to go down to the comments. And we're going to look at, where are we at here? This stacking, this Facebook post here. Okay, are there more rule tweaks to come? I know a lot of people are waiting for rules that nerf shooting and that nerf the use of the same ability more than once. And then we have this other response, and then we have Warhammer responding. There's not a rule against multiple stacking abilities as such, but there will be an adjustment to points or profiles for some units where this is sometimes an issue.
So a War Scroll update?
That tells me that we're talking about they're tackling it in a targeted fashion through 2 different elements. Points changes and scroll changes.
I like that. I like that a lot.
So there you go. And that's fine. In lots of cases, this could simply be fixed by some wording on some war scrolls. Right? And that's pretty much all we would need. I'm okay with not having the blanket rule if you fix the worst offenders, because in a lot of cases, it just doesn't matter. So that's what I would say. Tom, thoughts?
About the non-stacking thing?
Yeah.
I'm really pensive about KO. I had mentally prepared myself for chemists not stacking. I had not prepared myself for them going up in cost.
Are they going up in cost?
I don't know, but that's the thing. Like if they solve that, that Gordian knot by raising their costs, I will probably table my. They
don't need to. Oh, come on! They don't need to. They don't need to change the cost. But if they do a minor tweak on the war scroll, that just means that you can't stack. The cost can stay the same. They just pulled back the ability.
I'm okay with that. But like, they're the only good hero, and they're still the cheapest hero at 100 points. So they don't even have any 80-point heroes.
I would be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if they change the points so soon after the book comes out, just because it's the GHB.
I agree.
If it was a year ago, I could see it, but not so soon.
I'm horrified by the thought of a Urbaz port, skyport, an Urbaz skyport with 3 engineers. Like truly, like I think it will break the game. And I think I don't say this lightly. Like I'm generally like, I get frustrated about things, but I think that like this is something, if you see a true Urbaz with stacked, especially if the Arcanauts get like Horde benefits, like running 40 of them at a discount, I think that you're going to see some broken ass shit on the tournament scene. Like if that does happen, honestly.
And if that happens, if they're willing to make the update with those tweaks, I bet you if we see that happening, they'll correct that.
It won't last a year. Like, yeah, I don't think it would last a year. Yeah. Like I think they would immediately correct it at the next thing, because like it would be gross. Like I just don't even know how else to frame that conversation.
Yeah, and we'll see it. But that's the thing. The world that we're living in now, where everything can be corrected, however long the cycle takes. I feel better about minor tweaks over the course of time to pull things back, but that are tested and proven on the battlefield at the events. yes, somebody could take advantage of it and sweep through. We've seen that since the beginning of Warhammer. Yeah. Usually it takes an entire edition before we see changes or the release of a whole new army. Now we see the correction, if not yearly, it could be next month because a War Scroll update could happen.
Yeah, that said, obviously I think KO is going to be, it has one of the highest potential offenders here. And this is as a person who has KO and is very familiar with their capabilities. I would say that most other folks I'm not too concerned about, like from a stacking standpoint. Like
I will also say the easiest way to fix the KO chemist problem is just to rewrite the ability as opposed to worry about points changes and stuff like that.
Exactly, I'm with you. Oh, by the way, Tom, if you think that it's going to break the meta, break the friggin' meta, go to the tournaments, clean up, and make the issue.
That feels filthy though. Like I'll do it. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not beyond that.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't be satisfying, but I would do it.
But you prove the point. Then you prove the point. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about these actual rules of one. So first off, you cannot reroll modify the roll at the start of each battle round that determines who chooses the player that takes the first turn. Okay, cool.
Coven Throne.
It's a straight dice off. I would agree. Like people have talked about the Coven Throne being affected by this.
No. Oh, no. Ben Johnson showed up and clarified that. Like he was very, like he didn't do it explicitly, but he was very very, very clear that he's like, does it trigger either reroll or modify? No.
I have to say, I prodded him on that, and I didn't expect to get a response.
And he jumped in
unofficially. You have no idea how many people responded to me, sent me private messages, Tyler Mengel, and sent me all kinds of private. It's not official on. I know it's not official on Twitter. I didn't expect that Ben was going to respond to my tweet.
I mean, that being said, I completely agree with your logic that you expressed here. This is a time where I'll agree with Mitch. It is doing neither of these things. Yeah, it's not. It is not re-rolling or modifying it. The rule of the Coven Throne says if you tie, you win, right? So it's changing the base rule that governs the turn order.
It's not going to matter that much. I'm probably the only guy who's ever brought a Coven Throne to a tournament anyway.
Sure. I mean, that being said, to me, it's actually quite clear that this rule doesn't touch the Coven Throne. It is not doing either of the things that are explicitly stated here. It is changing an underlying game rule. Which let me just say that it's disappointing. Let me just jump in and say that there's not a lot of things that was doing that thing, modifying the role. Obviously, like Kairos was, they changed the scroll and then they decided to make it a rule of one. But what's interesting to me is that one of the only things I can think of off the top of my head that was doing this was the Fire Slayer Battalion, like their only viable, good, solid Fire Slayer Battalion. One of their Lords of the Lodge, one of their two abilities on a 160-point battalion was giving them a bonus on this roll if their heroes were still alive. It's like +1 per hero or whatever.
Yeah, and you know what?
Once
per game. Changed.
Once per game. Yeah, I have to hope so. Or they dropped the battalion point down to like 60 points or 40.
Yeah, I would just hope you just change the battalion rule. Yeah. Like that's the right answer there. Again, don't screw with points if you don't need to.
I hope they do.
Yeah. So okay, that one seems fairly non-controversial to me. As you just said, there wasn't a lot of stuff doing this anyways.
Yep.
Right. Yep. But it's such a critical role. It should just be a straight dice off. Let the fates decide. Only let Master Zinch decide. That's what I say. All right. So, and then the fifth rule of one: no artifact or of power or similar item can be taken more than once in the same army. This is one of those things.
A lot of people were taking two obsidian blades. No,
sure. This is one of those things where they're just responding to what TOs were already doing in the community, because a ton of tournaments packs already.
Rattle brew.
Sure. Already, they already put this in place, right?
Yep.
So you so that they couldn't have multiple battle brews, being the great example of what sort of led a lot of people to make this change.
Quicksilver potions as well, like being able to activate all your key heroes always first. That's kind of a big deal.
But so clearly, this is to me, most tournaments I've seen recently have already had this. I don't see a huge change in the way that I know we used this rule in our personal games. Just because, it was just sort of something we all decided to do together. It's one of those things that makes sense. So great.
There's one more adjustment that I'm really hoping they pulled the trigger on.
Okay.
And that's the rule of one that that limits spellcasting to like one of each spell.
Yeah.
I hope they just slipped in the word prayers there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yes.
So that you can't have a bunch of like +1 to hit prayers from Khorne just firing off.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, you know, we didn't see, we can't, clearly they've cut the they've cut that text out, but yes, we're going to see that. There's no way prayers can't even be dispelled, right? So like,
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Good.
My estimation is yes, of course you'll see that. I would be.
I hope so.
I will say I would be very, very surprised if we didn't.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. The other, but let's talk about here's some of the existing rules of one. They mentioned some of the existing rules of one have had a few adjustments as well. So there's
for example, so they do go particular, which would mean that there are potential other few adjustments.
That is correct.
That would lend support that the prayers might get adjusted.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. For example, as well as a 1 always failing, a 6 always succeeds. Cool. Again, This is another thing I saw a couple tournaments put into place so that people couldn't get in a position where they
basically shut off attacks.
Yeah, like through debuff stacking, you could just make an entire army hit on 7s, i.e. not hit, and suddenly like, oh, you don't get to have fun anymore or play the game. Great.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
that's
some people would argue only hitting on 6 makes it not fun as well. But I wouldn't know anything about that.
I would certainly argue that it's not as fun. But there is a difference between I've got a chance and I might as well just not even take my turn. Right.
But even roll 6s, you roll enough with some of these large units with lots of attacks. You're going to roll enough 6s where it at least makes that unit viable. The non-factor of even being able to roll completely neuters the unit. I like it. You're not going to roll a lot of 6s, but if you're, I'll just use death as an example. If I have a skeleton unit of 40 skeletons and they're getting each 3 attacks each, that's a lot of attacks. I'm going to roll some 6s. I mean, at least I get to roll some dice.
Yes, I mean that's the point. There is the chasm between doing nothing because your unit cannot literally generate a valid hit number and having a chance to do something is pretty wide.
And the nice thing is there's a lot of abilities. Real quick? There's a lot of abilities that trigger on the natural roll of a 6. So it means that if you have those special abilities, even if you don't have a lot of those hits, they really can kick in too.
Yeah, you're going to need to reread that. I don't have the response from GW's community team. But they said the abilities that still trigger, like that would trigger on a 6 or higher, no longer trigger. So those abilities will still get shut off.
Not a 6 or higher, because that's modifiable. But if it says on a 6, meaning a natural 6, that's there are those out there still.
Yeah, I mean, some of those are few and far in between. Almost all of them are worded in the modifier sense, 6 or higher. And all of those will shut off those abilities.
Right. That I agree with. If it's 6 or higher and you have a modifier that puts it off to potentially a 7, it's not going to trigger on the 6. But if you have something that says on a roll of a 6 that's non-modified, I'd say it triggers.
No, yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, and I'd be interested to see what those things are, because I think that there are maybe a handful of those that trigger on a 6. Yeah, as opposed to triggers on a 6 or higher. Yeah.
Yep. They're out there. Okay, so now let's talk about the Horde time. Phalanx pointed out good old Treach Craven Tail's ability is strictly on a 6. Yes. Oh, Craven Tail, the best general in the Skaven army. All right, so let's talk about Clan Verminous, because this really gave the game away right here. Like, oh my God, there is so much to unpack from this.
There is so much information in this little, small box.
Absolutely.
So much information.
All right, so we see the Clan Verminous box. Again, we know we've got the whole box. We know there's no more units. This is the same number of units that were before. Awesome. Yes. Okay, great. Fine. So I don't even know where to start with this. There's so much.
Let's start with Clan Rats. Clan Rats are a great place to start.
Sure, let's start with Clan Rats. Absolutely. So Clan Rats. Previously min size 10, now min size 20. There was no points increase for that increase in minimum cost. I mean, what I mean is previously they were 60 for 10. Now they're 120 for 20, right? So
you are always taking at least 20 of them.
Correct. Yes. They upped the min size. So we can't do sadly, you can't do my little trick anymore of like just using your Skaven battle line as 3 throwaway units of clan rats that scurry around in front and act as chaff. It got slightly more expensive now.
Like, we don't know if any of those 60-point units are still staying in only 60s. Like, people need to come to terms with that. There may be no more 60-point battle line units.
Exactly. This is the question. The question is how many exactly. This is why I said I think there's so much to unpack from this one.
So zombies 20 minimum now, you think?
Maybe 20 for 120.
Yeah. I would be shocked if zombies didn't go to 20. Absolutely. Like if anybody should have been 20 always, it's freaking zombies, right?
The zombie horde.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a horde.
You don't just like zombies aren't there's a few of them problem.
Yeah, no more taking 3 units of 10 shenanigans.
What do you think? Zombies 60 for 120, 20 min, 60 max with a horde rule of 300 points.
I'd go for that.
Yeah, I think
Do you think?
Yes, I think exactly. Min 20. You're saying min 20, max 60, 120
max 60,
120 for 2,300 for 60, right?
It's either 300 or 320.
That would be part of my allies for a Soulblight army.
I would. I would. Oh, and by the way, Merrick told you to stop going like 70 times in a row, you weirdo. Yes, I agree with your pointing. So, so many good things there. The up min size tells me that there are going to be lots of adjustments to those min sizes. I agree. Not all, many units will see this happen. Okay. I'm going to put that flag in the ground now.
Yep.
And that's the payoff for getting them cheaper at max size, right?
Yep.
Is that you get them cheaper at max, but you got to take more min.
Right? But Storm Vermin weren't always this way. Like, so Storm Vermin
well, hold on. We're not to Storm Vermin yet. Let's jumping ahead.
Okay, sorry.
All right, let's talk about Storm Vermin. So,
that was my segue. Jump on it.
Sure. So Storm Vermin's kept their same min size. They were classically min 10, but their max went up by 10. Storm Vermin used to be capped at 30.
30. Yeah.
Which was so disheartening to me, by the by, because obviously I have more than 30 Storm Vermin painted, and I could never use them all because I wanted one big
delicious Death Star of Storm Vermin.
Oh, it just got so much better. It just got so much better.
Didn't it?
It did. It got cheaper and more models and more deadly. And now it's even part of the battle line. So much to unpack here. The cost stayed the same. Storm Vermin were always 10 for 140. But obviously they have the max size. They have the max size change and the max cost change, right? So here you're saving 60 points because obviously 140, 280, 560. And you're saving the points if you go up to that full 40, which I absolutely would without hesitation or reservation. Choppy. My God. Dear God. So, by the way, Skaven and AZ got to play with that list a little bit, and he fought a Stormcast army. The battle report's up on his channel. It's very fun, worth watching. Sadly, a Storm Vermin. Well, a Storm Vermin got themselves in a bad situation. Didn't get to get their choppy on, but that's okay. It was still a really good game. It was a good game.
It's a good video.
It is. So to me, this is just a fantastic thing. And then, of course, the other note we can't miss. Battle line if the army has Verminous allegiance. Fantastic.
So good. So good.
It's just, because previously they didn't have that, obviously. So this is wonderful all around. I will say the Warlord and the Warbringer both stayed the same. There you go. No, apparently nailed it. Nope.
Nailed it. They allies, Eshin, Molder, Pestilence, Skyr, Master Clan.
You got it, buddy. Exactly.
Yep. So will Thanquil drop to 400 points? That's the question.
So he can be taken as an ally?
To know.
I would hope so. That would just be such an amazing world to live in. Where
Have him pop into any Skaven army.
Mm-hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong. That would be ridiculous if he was 400 points. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. He'll end up being over.
Imagine him dropping into an Eshin. Hold on.
What was that?
I know.
Yes.
Sorry, Merrick. Imagine dropping into Eshin and have like 2 Warbringers.
You mean Deceivers?
Deceivers. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 Vermin Lords, 2 Deceivers, and him, and then
Who
a
could
bunch
Skitter
of
leap him around. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Which, by the way, if no one has been watching Doom and Darkness's recent reports, Tom, I don't know if you watched Doom and Darkness's recent reports from Southern Impact.
I have not seen them. Not yet.
Okay. Well, he ran the Vermin Lord Deceiver Thanquil combo and was skitter leaping Thanquil all over the table and wrecking shop with him because he would just put him behind the line and then cast blast and just melt people. So,
we know all about that from Holy Havoc.
Absolutely. So the critical component of the allies thing here that you mentioned, Tom, is whereas in Death with the Death Lords, we saw the Death Lords being able to ally with all of Death, which makes sense. They are the Death Lords, right? Yep. Here we have the leadership group of like I don't want to call it the leadership group. That's not right. That's Master Clan. What do I want to call it? The warrior backbone, I guess, of the clans. Yeah, there you go. That's the right thing to call it.
Sure.
And they can ally with all the other clans, but they don't reach out into any of the other chaos, right?
Yeah.
There's no like chaos allegiance here in any way beyond Skaven, but I will, right? I mean, they don't think about the difference in the size of the alliance that they can reach into,
right?
Versus Death. Now, what I will say is I would expect these to be pretty much defined along fairly narrative routes. The Death Lord, like the 2 examples we've seen, the Death Lords are the lords of all of Death, hence they get everybody. These guys are the backbone of the warrior groups, of all the clans, so they get all the clans, but they don't ally with other chaos. When we see Pestilence, I would not be surprised to see a bunch of Chaos Nurgle crap show up on there.
That would be cool. That would be very... I know one local guy who is dying to be able to do that and would lose his shit if that was possible. And I know there's probably a lot of other people that would like to do that.
The big question there is, does Glotkin drop down to 400 points? If Glotkin drops down to 400 points, then there's some gas in that engine. If he doesn't...
Do you think he's undercosted, though,
I think he's overcosted right now.
Overcosted?
So I do. And so I think 400 would make him competitive. Like, I really do think that would be a good number for him.
He won't go that low. If I agree with you, he's overcosted. I think he'll be 440. But anyway, just based on other heroes that we've seen move around, I think he'll be 440. But because I think they will. And here's the thing, Tom. I think they'll intentionally keep him out of allyable.
Sure.
He shouldn't be your only ally, right? That it's weird if Glotkin is the only true chaos model that showed up. He shouldn't be allyable. He should be the guy in charge of the force that has other allies. Like narratively,
right? Yeah. I can see that because he'd always be an ally if he was 400 points. You'd see him constantly.
And so, to me, they'd put him at 4.
No, he wouldn't. Like, let me just. Well, anyways, it doesn't matter.
All right, sure. Right. Another show. So my point being is, though, I would not be surprised when we get Clan Pestilence to see all of the Nurgle stuff on that list. I think this tells me when you look at the 2 of them, what you will see. Is that
Plague Bears
will be narratively aligned?
Do Plague Bears go to 40 blocks and cheaper on that 4th buy?
Are they capped at 30 right now?
They are.
Probably. If I mean, like I
with neg 2 to hit over 20 models, neg 2, neg 1 over 20 models.
Maybe
20
it's
models.
hard to say. I think we'll see some moves of those semi-elite infantry, like the Storm Vermin. Right, I call them semi-elite because we've sort of introduced this new cast of like truly elite infantry that have 2 and 3 wounds. What used to be elite infantry. So I think we'll see this semi-elite infantry in some cases move up in their max value. Yes. Now, I wouldn't read too much on that from the Skaven because Skaven are by their nature a horde army.
They are.
But if I were some of the orcs have obnoxiously low maxes. Okay. I would not be surprised to see some of the orcs, some of the quote unquote semi-elite orcs, right? Go up in their max size. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, and what I would say is that the one max size unit that I think is going to be potentially game break. Like, I think this is going to be like, if they really pull this trigger, it's going to be gross. Is Volkite Berserkers.
Because right now they're capped at 30, right?
They are capped at 30. And they're four up ward save triggers on above 20 models. And if they go to if they go to a 40 model count, or if they even get Horde at 30, because they buy in 5s right now. You buy 5 for 60. Yeah. So if they were to go, like, buy 6 in and you get a discount, and then like you're gonna get some bonker stuff, because you can get a 30 block with a rune smiter for under 400 points, or at 400 points.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the obvious candidate is stuff like Ard Boys. Okay,
yeah.
The old school Black Orcs. Like, those guys are capped at 30. And much like Storm Vermin, that just always felt insulting, right?
Yeah.
Because Ard Boys are orcs, or people have tons of those models. If you played that army previously, right? Yeah. If like
you
me,
had 40 blocks.
Yeah, exactly. You had 40, 50 blocks easy. It's what I've got with my Storm Vermin. And so there were models that I just couldn't easily really use.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of stuff I would expect to see go up. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the clans play out. Like, Pestilence has the obvious Nurgle alignment. I think the other ones you may see much less alliance, but who knows? It'll be interesting to see. But to me, this one was just such a big deal. It told us we're going to see min size changes, max size changes, the Horde point decrease, the addition of the battle line, the narrative.
And how the Horde point decrease works.
Yep, exactly. Like, this one really did give the game away to me.
Is it a consistent metric? Like, is the number of discount universal, or do you think it might be different depending on the faction or the unit?
I think it will be absolutely dependent upon the individual thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Building a rule like that algorithmically is destructive to the game for no reason. Why?
Yep.
Why would you make that math? There's no need for it. Just figure out what the right number is.
Yep.
So I agree.
There you go. I see Doom is weighing in. Doom and Darkness is watching. He said min size changes sucks. He hates it. Hey,
I'm sure.
A little Doom in your Doom and Darkness.
Doom, I don't care about the min size change at all, because they gave me my sweet extra Storm Vermin, buddy. It just means that you got some new game that you got to play with here. I'm all right with it.
Yep, they are redefining. They are truly redefining the game, as they said they would.
Yeah. So this was the next thing. Obviously, they mentioned, and this is what brought up the Daughters of Cain comment from earlier. In that, for example, the Bloodthirsty Daughters of Cain can now fill out their battle line slots with Doomfire Warlocks and/or Sisters of Slaughter. So that would give
loads more, not just more, loads more of battle line, conditional battle line. What we've been calling conditional battle line if.
Battle line if, yes. Well, I mean, when you look at this, Doomfire Warlocks and Sisters of Slaughter, the Daughters of Cain are not a big faction, right?
That is everything that's not a hero is battle line.
Yes, exactly. You just literally pointed out what I was going to say.
Of wizards, these mounted units of wizards. Actually, I take that back. That's not true. Everything that's not a hero, because neither your shrine, your blood rack shrine at 140 points for 12 wounds, or your your Medusas, neither of those are heroes.
A fair point, though they are individual. They are individual, right?
Yes.
Basically, anything in this faction that is a unit is now a battle line unit.
I'm just excited you can make like an entire army of wizards with all Doomfire Warlocks at your battle line. Boom!
Sure. Absolutely. So, to me, this tells me that I believe them. When they say loads more battle line if, great, good, wonderful. I'm okay, cool. Between doing that and then also being able to bring in allies, the nature of building fun, fluffy forces and stuff like that, and doing interesting things with all those different factions, and the fact that most of them will now have allegiance abilities. I mean, your stock is rising, GHB2. I mean, it's going to be a good time. All right. Now we need to talk about the scenario.
It makes me wonder. Hold on. It makes me wonder with all those increased battle lines and so much of their army being battle line, like it just screams to me, yeah, sisters need another box, like 2 more units, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems like a low hanging fruit. 2 more units.
A release before the end of the year. Maybe that's part of the release, part of the battle time.
It's too many. It's too many elves. Like if you're gonna do the Cthulhu elves.
Not necessarily. They could all come out as one thing over a couple weeks. They could do a different type of release where week 1 adds 1 kit and has the book, and week 2 adds 1 kit and has the book. Like you could get tricky with it. Don't put anything.
And they could be close allies. Yeah, they could be close allies. So I mean, like that's another possibility.
Every time we think we know, we're like, okay, this time, guys, this time
GW
we understand what GW is doing. We get it now. All right, now we're sure.
Let me just put a point on something. Paul had said, Paul Wagner, a friend of the show, had suggested, he said, I'm excited for allies just for conversion potential.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Roger and Overlords better have Fire Slayer allies. That's all I'm saying. I am going to be so pissed if they don't.
They will. I mean, there's no question in my mind, given that, again, narratively, they actually set it up in the KO book. Right.
Yeah, that there's a Fire Slayer lodge in one of the cities.
Exactly. Yeah. That just says to me, yep, it's happening. Like, yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this new this new scenario. And as they mentioned, these are sort of evolutions of the original scenarios, but they do not necessarily replace them. So here we go. Duality of Death, which again, for whatever reason, shows up really huge when I'm sharing here.
Same here.
All right. So blah, 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 all of this crap now over here. Okay. So there are a couple objectives. The territory doesn't extend to the edge of the table, yada, yada. All right. So we got 2 objectives we care about. A player controls an objective if a hero or behemoth, that's the fun way to say that, from their army is within 3 inches of the objective at the end of any move, including run, charge, or pile-in moves, but not retreat moves.
No.
So much to talk about with this one when I read this. I was like,
first of all, tactical changes.
Yeah. First of all, I love that we're actually going to have scenarios where behemoths matter. The Age of Monsters with allies has returned, and now they can even win you scenarios. Fantastic. Glad to see it. This made me incredibly happy. Mutilith Vortex Beast.
It made the Phoenix Guard army happy as well.
Whatever, man. Muti's back in the mix. That's all I'm saying. MVP. So, at any rate, the other change here was the but not retreat moves. Wow. That's an incredibly nuanced thing to call out, because I'll tell you right now, I've pulled objectives by retreating onto them during the final turn or whatever, doing this sort of thing. And I don't think they're all going to be like this. This one's a take and hold over time kind of thing. But
the other thing.
Go ahead.
I would wonder are moves that are deployment moves.
Like summoning?
No, summoning is as a setup. And it's happening in the hero phase. But I'm talking about like Stormcast, deep striking. Yeah, as a move action, you can set up da-da-da-da-da-da.
I mean, my answer would be yes, because the list is not exhaustive.
It's not exhaustive.
Yes. Right.
Night
Haunt. So deep strike onto a point and take it.
Right.
Night Haunt.
So the fact that they have a scenario where you can't retreat, that's an interesting little tactical hook that showed they sort of watched how people were playing and decided to throw an interesting sort of thing into the mix for you here. All right. And then basically beyond that, it's kind of like 3 places of power where, the hero or behemoth can control blah, blah at a time. And if more than one is eligible, it's the first to arrive and so on and so forth. I thought the extra little addendum here was interesting. If a hero or behemoth slays an enemy hero or behemoth, then they immediately gain control of it if they are within 3 inches of it. And the way you score the victory points is fine. But did you notice this one? Where if you get control or, when you do this, in addition, blah, 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 any hero that is not a behemoth that controls an objective heals a number of wounds equal to the victory points that they scored.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a very fun little addition for your foot heroes that are going up there and claiming it. Yeah. because otherwise they start like your regular little foot heroes that aren't also behemoths. Great for ogre heroes, by the way, because any of the heroes that are cheating that are like non-behemoth 8 wound or 7 or 8 wound heroes. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those Swift Hawk agents are rolling in.
The guy, I love that that's where you went first, to the guy on the bird chariot. Oh, that's amazing.
With the 16-inch banner. Yeah.
Correct. No, he's
and the ward
in the
save.
mix.
Yep,
Yeah.
and the ward save to range shooting attacks.
Sure. That dude is in the mix.
And
That
run.
Stealth winner for the this scenario.
Yeah.
And then obviously the other way is kind of the points are just determined much as the previous, most of the previous scenarios, where just if you've got more points, you win a major. If you don't, it's kill points and you win a minor. So very cool. There were so many little things I noted in this that I quite liked, around the inclusion of the behemoth, the prevention of retreat moves, and the healing of the non-behemoth heroes, right? I thought that was such a wonderful little cross incentive to run. And by the way,
yeah, this is just what, by the way, Stormcast heroes need.
Well, it's one of those.
It's going to be tougher to crack.
Sure. I mean, fair. But like, there is a lot of question about how often do you hear people complain about foot non-behemoth heroes, right? They're like, oh, it's only 5 wounds. It's so easy to shoot off. See, for example, earlier this show. And so
I didn't sound anything like that.
I wasn't quoting you. That wasn't. I don't know what you're talking about. I meant that was a totally different discussion, Mitch. It's crazy. No, my point being that I'm glad to see little incentives being dropped around to run those heroes, right? Because you don't need to have big sweeping changes to incentivize and change up the meta, right?
Yeah, and if you don't kill those guys off those points right away, the value that they're actually healing every turn is going to increase to a point that it's going to get uncomfortable. Like, so here's an example of one of those heroes that could get real painful real quick, and I don't think that people have thought about it. Just like off the top of my head, would be the Rotbringer Sorcerer.
Okay. Because he's 7 wounds base, or is that the guy you're talking about? The 7 wound guy?
6 wounds base. You're gonna have to double check, man. I think he's 6 wounds base. But more importantly, every time he successfully casts a spell, he increases his wound count by 1.
Huh.
And he's going to be casting spells, and sitting on one of these points and increasing the amount he's healing every turn and increasing his wound count. And he's an Energal army with ward saves and all the like. So like suddenly a really crappy model in a scenario like this just gained, like, his value just went through the roof because he has to be killed in the first turn or two. Otherwise he might get scary quickly sitting on one of those points. Like if he's bubble wrapped, obviously, like all the buffs, and if he's bubble wrapped. Interesting.
Paul also pointed out an interesting layer that I hadn't caught onto, but that I definitely want to mention. Let's revisit this area of the text right here. Okay. If a hero or behemoth slays an enemy hero or behemoth controlling an objective, then they immediately gain. Well, hold on. Oh, no, I think you read it wrong, Paul, but I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Okay, we'll come back. Because he was talking about trading around your own heroes, but that's not how it would work. Okay, neat. This is cool.
I mean, Paul's point may just simply because it like they wouldn't automatically take it if they're not within 3 inches, and if you have another hero within 3 inches, like you have a point bubble wrapped, you would by de facto reclaim it with your other hero on your next turn. Maybe that might have been.
Maybe that was what he was getting at. Yeah. So there we go. That's all our spoilers so far. The kind of the final things I want to point out here is many units have had their points updated. Some units have been reduced, while others have been increased. So look, we've said it before. I'll say it again. Get ready for some points changes. I know the internet is going to lose its mind at whatever happens. It doesn't matter.
Or doesn't happen.
Prepared we all are. It doesn't matter that they've said it like 800 times. It's everybody's gonna feel. Let me let you in on a secret. If you're sitting there going, my faction got screwed because of points changes. If that's a statement you're about to utter, stop, check yourself, don't wreck yourself, because somebody else somewhere else thinks the same thing about their faction, and every faction, and it's every time. Like, how many times do we have to go through this? It's just like, I know I am screaming into the wind. I know it. But nonetheless, I'm going to give it the old college try and say, let's keep calm and not assume it's the end of the world when the points for stuff you like goes up. Because it's
going to. Because the stuff you like is probably undercosted.
Yeah.
If you're a cheater player like Tom. If you're like me and the stuff you like is overpriced, say, for example, Blood Thrones and Mutilith Vortex Beasts and, you know, Chaos Knights, well, I'm probably going to have a great time. This is going to be just winning for me.
You know what I'm excited about?
What's that?
A larger horde of Chaos Warriors.
I don't think their max will go up. Let me say that. I don't think it will.
You think they'll stay at 30? Do you think they'll get the Horde discount at 30?
You know, somebody raised that question of will
because they're like Stormvermin
discount. They're most certainly not. They're 2 wound models. That's the big difference. I don't think so.
So are Black Orcs, so are Ardboys, and you had identified Ardboys.
Yeah, but they're also Orcs. I maybe, I don't know. I didn't say that I thought Black Orcs would get a Horde discount, though they might. I did say I think they'll go to 40, but there's a distinction because those are 2 separate levers that could be pulled, right?
Like Chaos Marauders will obviously go up to 40 with a Horde discount. Like that, Marauders are going up.
100% agreed. Yes, Marauders will get.
They're probably going to go to. They're probably going to go to a 20 to 40 deployment. Like they would be. I could imagine them taking the Clan Rats, which is going to be real interesting for my plague battalion. Actually, no, it is. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be painful because that means I have to deploy in 35 for Marauders in order to get that benefit.
35. Yes, I'll be excited that you have to change your list, and you can already that's what I'm saying. Get ready. Yeah, massive changes are coming.
Are we doing winners and losers?
Oh, like a winners and losers thought? Sure.
When it finally does. When it you saying right now?
Yeah, like right now, like predictive winners and losers. Go ahead. What do you got?
I have one for each. So I'd say winners are all of the sub factions that didn't have allegiance. Clearly, is a big thing that we can look forward to, because now they're going to have allegiance. Free Peoples, Dispossessed. Anybody who didn't have a tome before is now going to be able to have something that can bring them a little bit more into the fold. But the losers, I feel, are going to be those that don't have battalions, which are some of the same, because the competitive landscape where you have the 1 and 2 drop battalions, that gives you, in many cases, an advantage, at least in terms of how to start the game out and potentially getting that first double turn, or at least to dictate who should deploy first, so that you can counter it. I think that's where the losers come in. Now, I don't think either of these are.
Say that again.
The second part or the first?
The second
part. The losers are the non-battalion people.
The ones who don't have battalions, because they don't have the option to get the fast deployment. I deploy everything in my army.
I would push back. I think they're the losers. I think the mono drop single faction are the losers, because in order for them to tap into allies, they lose that advantage. I think they're the ones that can take the kick in the teeth.
Excellent point. Well, that's a great counter argument. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yes, this is it. You raised something we hadn't touched on yet, Tom, but it's an excellent point. Is that the opening of the door to allies, which will often be outside the battalion, would theoretically, if they're used, would increase the average drop counts if taken in aggregate across the game. Yep.
Which is not a bad thing, because those 1 and 2 drop armies tended to have some big advantages, but you're definitely incurring a cost in order to get that, in order to do that. One big winner is going to be any
faction that doesn't have a high model counts.
Okay.
Because they're going to be able to tap into other factions like their battle line or their high model count, low cost models. So
Like
you
Soul
need
Blight.
bodies.
Like
yeah, like Soul Blight can grab a bunch of zombies or skeletons or whatever
Right.
they're like infantry troops, so that you have like you actually have something that can hold points. The rest of your army does all the fighting, and then you have things that can sit on points. And so, like for example, I think about KO. So I've talked about this. Like we talked about this last week. One of the weaknesses of KO is model count. I'm imagining a world now where like I may be able to take as my my allies a block of 30 Volkite Berserkers with even a minor discount in Horde rules would allow me to take that in a Rune Smiter, which is a single drop. It's a drop ship, like it's a 9-inch Stormcast Lightning Strike deployment for that one. So I deploy as a single unit, so I can get a 2-unit army or 2-drop army with 400 points of allies, and I can gain 30 models that are much harder than anything else in my army.
Well, you do prove my point, by the way, Tom. You've taken a 1-drop army, and with allies, yes, they have a disadvantage by getting an extra deployment to a 2. But if you take a non-battalion army that would have 8 or 10 or 12, it still amounts to the same thing. You're well exceeding they're well exceeding your drop count, even though you've only gone up by 1 or potentially 2 because of allies, and you're still going to get the first choice of turn.
Few and far in between. Like I think actually, like engineering that is going to be few and far in between, is what I would say. Like I don't think that's going to be the common. Now for order, that may be common, because let me just tell you, if you can get a bundled pack of 30 Volkite Berserkers in a Rune Smiter for 400 points. That is going to be a go-to battle line option, because they are generic battle line right now in the new thing, and they're going to be like if you take them with shields, they do mortal wounds on the charge. They're going to be 4 up in melee combat, 4 up ward save until they drop below 20 models. Like it's like you're talking like Phoenix Guard, they're 2 attacking, -1 rend. Like it will be that 40 block will be a staple in many armies. I'm just going to call that now. Like, in the competitive scene, because it's just such an affordable, cost-efficient utility piece, because you could deploy them anywhere within, farther than 9 inches.
Right.
So capping points and just all that stuff. And those 2 models, those 2 units you're getting as a single drop. Now, that's I think if they were smart and they didn't do Horde rules and all that, you have to drop down to like 25 models, or potentially 20 models if they change it to 10, 20, 30 on Volkites. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. My winners and losers is easy. Winners, Slanesh, we finally get our allegiance rules. Losers, all the elves, because those suckers have to wait another 6 months on anything. Suck it, knife ears. You get the short stick again. Ha!
I don't know. I disagree. I think Swift Hawks just got a big boom.
Oh, yeah, they did. I'm wishing I didn't.
Because you can mix it up. I mean, because they have 400 points of allies now, where they didn't have before.
Sure.
So, like, I like Swift Hawk. I like a lot of what's going on, but there are a couple key pieces that are missing, and this answers the key piece problem.
Sure. All right. So I agree. More to come on this. We're going to talk about it more. I've already begun rallying people, as we did for the last General's Handbook and for some of the big alliances. Expect us to do a big breakdown show that will be like many, many hours long, not a normal Warhammer Weekly. We'll do a dedicated show, probably the weekend the book comes out, where we go through it and just grind it down. So get ready. That's coming. But until then...
And get ready for my Pure Fire Slayer army, because that's probably going to hit the table.
Sure, we're all excited. As soon as you paint it, look for that coming to a tournament near you 2020. So, all right.
It took me a year to do my Nurgle.
Right, exactly. Mitch... As always, buddy, absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks again. Always a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, sir. Tommy, appreciate all the good thoughts. And for everybody out there, we thank you very much for watching. We want to know what you think. Are we out of our mind on any of our predictions here or the things we've talked about? Drop it down in the comments. Let us know why we're crazy. I'd always love to hear the feedback. But as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.